Here we're doing the water test for the water heater. I want to know how much water pressure is coming into the house. As you can see, we have you can see below, we have the water that's coming in main to the house. I used the gator bite on that. That will come in later. I'll mention why I used the gator bite there and not at the other end later, but right now we're focusing on the water pressure coming out of this spigot. So I bought the water pressure test gauge at Lowe's, about 10 bucks, not too expensive. I'm just gonna put it right on to the end of the hose nozzle here. I want to see the difference between what happens when the water is off and how much pressure when it actually is on, which we can reset. So right now, we turn on the pressure. So right now it's about 70, a little less than 70. So I'm going to turn on the water hose as well to see how much pressure is reduced as we use it. As you can see, the fluctuation. Here, our water heater said between 50 and 60 psi is the best. So right now, I'm showing a little over 60 psi. And as you can see, the red hand somehow got messed up and is not following the dial. But it seems to be working at a constant 70. Now let's go check the pressure at the water heater itself. Okay, as you can see here, I've had to put a cap on because last time I drained my water heater, it wouldn't stop leaking, so I had to put a cap on there. So I want to get a good estimate of what the pressure is coming in. So right now, it's looking like we're getting about 70 psi, which is pretty high. I got the sink running right now, still around 70. Now I'm adjusting the intake valve. See if I can regulate some pressure with that. So with the intake valve running, you can kind of regulate the pressure, but it's always going to have a top pressure. So in order to bring that down, you need to get a pressure regulator. Alright, so I had a very short hose, didn't quite reach all the way outside, so right now I'm draining the water tank through this short pipe. It didn't come all the way out, but I got some blockage so that it creates a nice stream coming out of the house so I don't get any mess in the garage. Now what I did was I opened up every hot water source in the house, including the laundry. You make sure you include the laundry because here in Florida, the hot water pipe goes up into the attic and comes down to each spot. Okay, so here we're about to look at our areas we got to cut. Now, I bought this cutter at Lowe's. It goes from 1/8 to 7/8 inch outer diameter, which should fit this 3/4 inch pipe nicely. I also bought 3/4 inch compression fittings and a 3/4 inch flexible pipe, because I'm going to be going from this area to the top of the new water heater. So this might be kind of long, but the new water heater is a bit shorter. So it might be a little bit shorter and a little bit offset. So I'm going to cut it off to about here, the longest length. Once I attach all this and get this out of the way, I'm going to move that, see how this fits, and if I have to come back, I will. The power should be off. I've turned the power off, so we're going to disconnect the power. Now this is usually a 277 volt part. So you're gonna should see 2 hot wires coming in. It looks like a specialty fixture. All right, so that actually was a ground. That's why it was a funny shape. As you can see, you have a red wire and a black wire, but both wires connected to them are black. That's because it's 2-phase. So you might not see a white. You might not see a white wire. Now we want to check, make sure there's no power on these before we go disconnecting them. Since it's a 270 volt split into 2, it's about 120 per side. So we want to see nothing there. You check one lead to the ground. Oops, I got it backwards. You check your hot lead to the ground. You should have nothing. Check the hot lead to the ground. We should have nothing. If you have doubts about your meter, definitely take it to a hot outlet and double check it before you go any further. Alright, so now that I have this disconnected, just going to double check to make sure, because I don't see a white wire coming through. Just want to make sure these are both hot, coming off of 2 separate legs. So, check it to the ground with this one. Yep, there's a hot lead there. And then I'll check it to the ground with this one. Yep, a hot lead there. So, this is 2 circuits, so we definitely have the right breaker turned off. I'm going to leave that on there as I turn off the breaker. Breaker's off, no power at the circuit. Now the difference between a white and a black coming off a single phase would be that you would only get power between the 2 phases and only one leg would go to ground. Like this one would be not hot and this one would be hot. So you would see a white one would have no contact with the ground and the black one would have voltage with the ground. Because I'm going to have to use this part on the new water heater. So I want to save that part. So I'm going to have to disassemble it from here and pull it out. Alright, so now that that's out, now we can untie this. It's just a nut on the bottom. You just spin it till the nut comes off. And there you have it. So then we can reuse this. It's a pretty simple piece of equipment. Bend this up out of the way. Put the caps back on just in case. In case of accidental re-energize. It can happen. It can happen. You never know, but it can happen. Alright, so now that that's all disconnected and out of the way, first thing we want to take off is the overflow pipe. Now there should be nothing coming from the overflow, so it should be pretty dry. I don't think there's anything coming through there. The overflow should be turned off because of the fact that we've got everything opened up. You shouldn't have anything coming through there. So I'm just going to use my torch, because right around here I can see a bead of some weld where it looks like they might have used the same welding they did on here to do this. So I'm going to soften that up with my torch. Helps to go the right direction. Let's see, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Now this thing is going to have a little restriction on how far it can cut through there, because we got it right on top of the water heater. So it's going to be a little restricted, but whereas these will be much easier because we have plenty of room to rotate 360 degrees. This is going to take a little bit more finagling, but it's highly probable that it should be pretty easy. Just keep tightening and rolling until it pierces the pipe. I'm going to have to switch sides because I'm only doing one side right now. See, this drain line is the best part to get your practice on for the real pressure lines, because this has no pressure on it, it's just a drain, so you get some practice here. Just a couple of turns, it's no rush, take your time. I'm going to probably have to use a saw to finish this up anyway, just because I'm going to have a couple of loose ends. Now for the next cut, I want to do it on the feed coming in. This is nice and off. Should be no leaking. I want to do it as close as possible to the entrance, and you always lead away. So we'll get a nice groove going, just the first part. Go around a couple of times, tighten it up a couple of turns, go around a couple of times. And I don't mind using this to save on my fingers. And there we are. Nice and smooth. I still see water coming out of the water heater. Now that's the thing, is there water coming out of here or not? That's the big question. I would imagine no. So I'm going to cut it. We'll see what happens. Couple turns. Don't overdo it. You'll want to with a wrench. You'll want to keep tightening, but don't do that. You're going to bust your tool. Now we definitely want to use this because we're going to be putting compression fittings on. So we want a smooth piece. There we go. All right, the water's coming out. And it's about ready to move. It is free. As you can see here, I've got one of the hoses I attached to the feed, and this is a lot shorter. This new water heater is much shorter. Even though it's a bigger water heater, it's a wider one. So it's going to be a little bit more flexed here. That's why I bought the flex, so I could flex it. So it's going to be definitely some pressure on this pipe, which is not good. We don't want a lot of pressure on that pipe. I could do it this way. Put the compression fitting on there, which probably would be a better fit. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with that pressure fitting there. That way it angles up right into there, and then this other one can angle up into this one. Causes less pressure on the pipes, less pressure on the connections. You want to keep as minimal pressure as you can on the connections. So that's what we're going to do going forward. Alright, so attaching the compression fittings. First thing we want to do is clean up the ends of the pipes. Even though we use the one piece there, the cutter, it's still going to have a sharp edge. So we want to file that down. The compression is going to expand it and make sure it fits, so we don't want to cut it up. That's nice, not too sharp. It's another reason you don't want to use a hacksaw, because hacksaws will leave a ragged, really ragged edge. First, the top ring. Then, the compression ring. Then, fine threaded end. Make sure it's pushed all the way up against the base of this pipe so that you're grabbing nothing but meat. You want that pressure ring to really dig into the pipe. Make sure it's in there. As you can see, it's going to push into the other pipe. So you want to make sure you have as much pipe as possible in there. You only want to turn this ring. You don't want to turn just the top one. See how loose the pipe is. You don't want to mess up the pipe. We need to insert our overflow valve. So this needs to go in, but we need to put some tape on it. does have some tape on there, kind of, but I'd rather put a little bit more. This is a thicker tape that'll give me a little more confidence. Now we thread it in. You do not need pipe thread on these joints, because as you can see, there's a rubber gasket inside there. As you can see, it's got enough play. There's not any binding going on. That's what you want. You don't want any binding. Just make sure the bottom one is snug. I still have all the faucets open in the inside of the house. So right now I don't see any leaks, don't feel any water. On the good side here, seems to be good. It's filling nicely. Alright, first I gotta close up some stuff. Alright, I had the hose hooked up or unhooked from the washing machine, so before that started to spew. But this is why you don't want to turn on the power just yet, or hook up your power just yet. You're just checking for leaks, looking for leaks, any sort of issues. So while that fills, I heard it. Have you heard that noise? Alright, so now we're going to hook up the power. We filled up all the pipes in the house, so we know that there will be no dry spot at all within the water heater for it to phase out or have any issues from not working. So, because if you run a water heater dry, it's a dry run, and that will fry the elements. So make sure you never run it dry. Always fill it up before you apply any power. Make sure the water is running throughout the whole house. So that way, there's no possibility that it can be dry run. We want to take this off here. I'm going to take the old part here. I'm going to connect it so that the wires go through. Tighten it down. Run the two hot wires. Now, as you can see, this one wire is actually the white. So what they did was they put black tape on it to show that it is the second leg of the ground, or of the wire. That way, you know, even though it's white, you would think it's neutral. This way you know it's still hot. So instead of running a secondary wire, they just use this one. So this is still disconnected. We still have the power off over there. So we can run this through the hole. Now this ground wire is short. So that's going to be an issue, but we can make it work. Alright, so now we are ready to install the final piece, the overflow valve. I bought a 3/4 inch nipple that has both the exterior and interior to fit in here. This way the two female sides will mesh up. Since it's just metal threads on metal threads, unlike this with the gasket in there, you need to put on the tape. It spins this direction, so you want to go in that direction as you apply the tape. And you don't put too much on there. Just maybe one wrap. Not more than 1 or 2 wraps, especially with this thicker tape here. You don't need it to be on there 3-4 wraps, because then it'll be hard to screw on. Definitely want to make sure it's firmly seated inside of there. You can see some tape on the outside here, but that's alright. Now it's time to apply our drain. So get it on there tight, snug. You want to hold the thing itself, because it's going to want to twist, but it should be free. It should be free moving. There we go. Now, no leaks. Good deal. So now it's time to do the smoke check. So we turn on the breaker. No smoke. No warmth on the wires. It's all right. Let's open it up and see the control panel. Now be careful when adjusting this temperature, because it can get very hot. You can see here's the reset if you trip it. And inside here, there's a little tiny dial that you can adjust. So here's the adjustment. If you look, you can see it says 66 degrees centigrade. I think that's a 66. And 32 degrees centigrade. So that's currently at 52. So to make it a little bit warmer, we'll just tweak it just a little bit. It's a lot of insulation there. We'll just tweak it just a hair. Don't want to go too much higher, so this should probably be good enough. As you can see here, I added some insulation that came with the water heater to the hot pipe coming out. It's red, marked red, so you can clearly see which one is the hot pipe. This is the intake pipe, the cold one, and the overflow. And we got the power coming out. I had a little service loop in here, so I was able to pull out some extra wire because this is much lower. As you can see, this was where the height of the old water heater was. So it was right about up here. So that's why there's a lot more coming down here. It's a little more squat, a little more wide. This is a 50-gallon instead of a 40-gallon. The last one we had was 40 gallons, and we just could use some more. We're a family of 4. It's just better to have more hot water. So hopefully this does a better job. We have an inspection coming up for insurance, which it seems like a lot of people are doing now. Seems like it's a big thing to do now. So if you need a hot water heater, I highly recommend doing it yourself, of course, if you don't mind taking a little extra work and installing these. Now you can get the gator bites, which will slip right on, but they'll never come off. So if you need to change the height, like this maybe I might have to get a squatter one, maybe I have to get a taller one, but this is still set up so that I can adjust the height of this up to this high for a new water heater if I need to, 15 years from now. And these are easier to come on and off. I should have used some anti-seize on these to protect it from corrosion and buildup where it's almost impossible to undo it, but that's for future me to worry about. Either way, thanks for watching.